In this work, what we'll be focusing in on is sound. So one of the things we can do, the first things we can do to develop our sound is to think about how to form an embouchure. And so I like to say the letter Q. And when I say the letter Q, I have my lower lip flush against my teeth, my lower teeth. My chin is down like this, and my corners are flush, are kind of firm as well. And my top teeth rest on top of the mouthpiece, and my upper lip wraps over the mouthpiece. So Q, and approximately where the reed meets the mouthpiece is about where my lower lip goes onto the reed. Another thing that we can do so that's the formation of an embouchure. We blow air into the clarinet, always with a good amount of air, not as in a wind tunnel, but we do need to always have air pushing through, even when we're playing at a soft dynamic level. We can't forget that. And when I play the clarinet, I really do think down low. So I'm breathing in from down here as if this is a big open cavity down here, and then later on my upper cavity fills like this. The other thought about sound is reeds. And no matter what reeds you choose, there are many excellent brands of reeds on the market. Really do have some good reeds before you play. So don't play on a reed that's your tried and true reed that you've been playing on for 2 months. You want to break in some reeds over the course of, say, 3 or 4 days, playing on each reed, letting it dry. So play for a minute or 2 minutes on a reed, put it back into a solid reed case where it keeps the bottom of it flat, and then go ahead and take the let it dry and number them 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., and rotate them each day. Play a different reed. Over the course of 3 or 4 days of that light amount of playing and wetting and drying of the reed, you'll find that the reeds do break in and settle. So have a number of reeds available to yourself, and as well as by doing this rotation of reeds, you will have more flexibility to play on reeds that may not be the most ideal reed. There is never an ideal reed, and if we feel that we do have an ideal reed, that means probably we've been playing on that reed for too long. Another thing to think about in this piece is really control of the softer dynamic levels, and that's where air comes into play. I like to learn to play in practice myself, starting notes without a tongue. So for instance, on the first D, if you just push a little bit of air first, and then you can feel just when the sound is going to start. Over time, you'll learn to predict exactly where that sound is going to start, and that confidence about where the sound begins is the point at which we can start actually using our tongue when we want to. So the tongue shouldn't be a crutch in a sense to start the sound because we have our tongue on the reed. We can blow our air and manage the production of the sound, the beginning of the sound, just essentially with our ears. And mechanically what's happening is we're pushing the air just enough to make that reed vibrate, and we're also tightening the lips and the pressure on the reed and the corners just enough in combination with our air to make that reed vibrate. But in a non-technical way, essentially, if you practice your starts of notes, another example, the D's come up a number of times in this piece. Let me see, on the opening note, the third bar, the E, and then even in the second line, the A, is full. Probably by there I'm going to be using my tongue, so if I precede that from the previous bar, actually I didn't even feel I needed to use the tongue on the A, so I'm trying to avoid the audible sound of the tongue. So I would like to avoid that kind of punctuation unless there is an accent, which in this case there is not. Let's talk about rhythm for a moment. So on the third line down, we have a D, and I like to subdivide my beats so I can think of 16th notes for the third line down, the first bar, this bar. And if I play 16th notes, I can precisely know exactly where to come in with those two 30-second notes, the E and the F sharp. And the same for the next bar with the C's. Like that. So that A, F sharp, C, A comes exactly on the upbeat of 2. It's 1 and 2, ta-da-da-da-da, like that. The next bar, it's a down and up, and I'll do with some subdivisions for you. I'll play it once regular as written. So again, subdividing with your tongue, taking a note and dividing it up into smaller units, usually half of what the actual existing unit is. So if it's an 8th note, I do 16th notes. That really does help. To clarify, on the 4th line down, on the grace note A, there's a 6 group there, and it's not marked in triplets, but those 6s should be beat 2. So it's 1, 2 da 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 3 4, 2 da 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 3 da 2 trip. However you like to say your triplets, 2 lali n lali, or just da da da's or 1 2 3s. But just that it's a down on the 2 3 da 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 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 like that. Let me play the prior bar and just put in the C sharp and the grace note. You have an option here. And you can play a right C sharp to a left hand C natural grace note, or you can play the left C sharp and the right hand C grace note. I'm trying not to make the grace note too fast. Just a stylistic choice I made. So, and that just kind of gives me a little sort of a spring into that upper dynamic, that louder dynamic. And then from that louder A, I can come down from there. As I go forward, on the 30-second notes, remember that there are 4 for each half beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, N, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3, 4, N, 2, 3, 4, 3, E, and 4, E, and so that's the way that count goes. And then the next bar, there should be a C sharp on this turn. The little sideways S's are turns or gruppettos, and what they mean is they take the written note, in this case D is the first one, you go up 1 note in the key signature, which would be E, back to your original note, and then down 1 note. And in this case, they neglected to mark, in most of the editions, a C sharp instead of a C. So in the key signature, it would be a C natural, but here we're C sharp. So, and as with all ornaments, I suggest to take the ornament away first and play the fundamental rhythm. Like that. In this case, when I play the A there, I'm going to try to gracefully decrescendo the A and then take a breath so that I can finish out with a nice long phrase and also get my trill. And I start my A sharp again with control without the tongue, generally speaking. Here on this next phrase, I'm going to go slowly like this as an example, but I don't have to necessarily put my pinky on for that D. As long as I am not playing the D too loudly, it goes by quite quickly, and so that enables me to not have as much of a chance of an error or a little blip of an extra note in there if I don't have to worry about my pinky. Generally speaking, and I say like 95, 98% of the time, here's a C sharp and here's a D, meaning C sharp has no right hand pinky on the E flat and D does have the pinky. But there are times when we will not be doing that, as in with fast passages, and you'll have to make some choices to make sure that the passage is executed nice and smoothly. Trills, many times people like to start them on the upper note, so if the note is a written D, here, let's see, or an E here, and our key signature has an F sharp in it, the next note above that would be an F sharp. And so I would start on my F sharp and hold that just for a moment and then start trilling back to my original note. So Now there's a number of ways to do trills. One is to hold that upper note, start the trill slowly, and then speed up gradually. And in this case, in the last trill, he's asking us to go do a crescendo and then back down soft with a grace note. Another way to do a trill is to just keep it mostly evenly, so even. So and so the main advice for a trill in a general way is that we lift our finger off the key reasonably to a reasonable distance. Generally speaking, we're telling ourselves hand-wise to drop your hands like this, relax the fingers, relax the wrist, let the natural curve of the fingers occur, and then find the thumb rest. So your thumb should be between the cuticle and the nail like this. And same with this hand here. We come at them at a sort of diagonal level like this that we were able to get, for instance, an F sharp and an A. And on this hand here, we're able to kind of access these right hand keys. If we were more perpendicular to the clarinet, it's a little harder to get those keys, access to those keys. So in this case, with this idea of good hand position, meaning not getting too far off the keys, we're going to maybe open that up a little bit more, and on trills, allow your finger to come off a little higher to the from the keys there. Again, maybe just one more comment about rhythm. In the very opening, we have the third bar is our triplets, but in my edition at least, they're not marked. So it's 1, la-li, 2, 3, la-li, 1. So it's triplet, triplet. Again, like we said in the other etude, really, how do you be expressive? I think the most important thing is dynamics. Really play with really clear dynamic contrast. What you think of it as a soft versus a loud, really make sure those are really underlined. Even at the soft dynamic levels, like I mentioned earlier, make sure that you have your air going through so that we do feel a sense of a line moving forward. So in the opening phrase, for instance, as opposed to I'm making some very subtle dynamic changes there, and that helps me to make the line feel like it's pushing forward a little bit and having some direction. Again, I'll emphasize reeds. Have good reeds, have a decent mouthpiece, and a good ligature that will tighten the reed against the mouthpiece. Usually a number 3 or a 3.5 reed, depending on the mouthpiece, will be about as maximum as you want. And strive for good, even rhythm, and strive for a beautiful sound, and get those dynamics. I hope you all have a fantastic audition, and please let me know if I can be of any